Mr. Donald J. Trump.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. So nice. Thank you very much. Please sit down. So we had a very exciting evening last night. And I went all around. You know, the word caucus, it's a little complicated because you don't know how it's going to work out. And they say it's hard to poll, but we polled fine and we really won big last night. So we ended up getting 46% of the vote. And, you know, during the day I was walking, I saw all these people and they're all saying, Donald, we love you, Donald, we love you. But you never know what's going to happen. And as soon as we turned on the television last night, when the results started coming in, it was obvious from the beginning. So we had a really extraordinary night. And one of the things that made me so happy is we as you saw, we totally won with evangelicals. I mean, we were big league with evangelicals, and it was such a good thing. And we've worked very hard. You know, I'm Presbyterian, I'm Protestant, and there really is, and I was going to talk to Pat later on, who's a great gentleman, by the way. Over the years I've met him, I've watched him. The job he's done over here is incredible, and I just have to tell you, it's an honor to be with Pat, and I look forward to having him grill me. He'll probably be grilling me. But he's a great man and a great guy, and I've known him really. The last time I was with him was about 4 years ago. I was getting an award, the Boone Pickens Award for Entrepreneurship. And Pat was there, and I got to know him a little bit, and it was really great. So I think the reason we've been doing well and doing quite well in the polls and leading by a lot with almost everybody is that I talk about what we have to do for our country. And our country's in deep trouble. We owe $19 trillion. Most people don't even know what $1 trillion is. You know, how many hundreds of millions is in $1 trillion? It's such a number. You know, it's a name that 10 years ago you'd never even heard the word trillion. But we owe $19 trillion. A very bad budget was passed just about 4 weeks ago that's going to add at least $2 trillion to it. So we'll be up essentially to $21 trillion. And, you know, at a certain point, it's really the point of no return. And you really have to have somebody that knows what he or she is doing. And I do know what I'm doing. When it comes to business, I know what I'm doing. It's been an amazing period of time for me. It's been great. In fact, my 2 sons are backstage. Maybe I'm allowed to bring them up because I'm very proud of my boys. So maybe I'll bring them. Maybe I'll bring them on. And good. That's beautiful. This is Don and this is Eric, and they were with me for the last week, and they go around making speeches, and this way I'll send them. They do a better job than me anyway, so I go into the room and I watch television, you know, and they say, the Trumps are making speeches. Say hello, Don.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here. It's nice to be able to be a proxy for him because we know what he feels about this country. We know the values that he's instilled in us growing up. Education, family, work ethic. All of these things that are often lost on children of similar fortune. You don't read about many children that came from the kind of wealth that we were able to brought up with in the way that you perhaps read about us. And I won't talk about myself that way, but I'll talk about my brother and sister that way. So those are all things that he doesn't get credit for. Those are the things that you don't see. Those are the things you don't see when he's a father, when he's now a grandfather to my 5 children. It's really incredible. He likes to talk about business, and he's phenomenal at that, but if you knew the real Donald, you'd also see something really special. He's an incredible guy, and we're just thankful that he's doing this for not only ourselves, our children behind them, but for everyone in this country, because he'll do a phenomenal job.
You know, to reiterate what Don really said, he has been our best friend. He's been our mentor. He's just the absolute greatest. We've worked across the table with him for the last 10 years, building hotels and golf courses and everything all over the world. And, everything he touches turns to gold. I say that all the time, but everything he touches turns to gold. And, that's the touch that this country needs. It really is. And there will be no better commander-in-chief. I said it a long time ago. I said it 3-4 months ago that we're going to win this thing. And I really think we are, and he will be such a great president. So we're proud of you, Pops. We love you to death, and we'll give it back to you.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you, honey. Thank you. Thank you, sweetie. So a lot of times people ask me to speak about success, friends of mine, and they'll even make big payments and we give it to charity and stuff, but I'll do it. And so often I'll say, the really successful people are the people not with the great wealth, but with the great families, where they have great kids and wives and husbands. And those are the people that are the happiest. And I don't know if I'm speaking against myself here, but the fact is that, you can have, I know the most successful people in the world. I deal with them all the time. I know them. I know them in many cases very well. These are not the happiest people, generally. A couple of happy, not too many. Because, no matter how successful, they all want more, more, more. It's never satisfied. And I guess I get a little bit guilty of that also. But the fact is that the happiest people I know are the people with great families that love their families and when their families love them. So it's something I talk about during success seminars. And a lot of times the people running the seminar don't want to hear that. That's not exactly what they want to hear. But I have to be truthful. So, and there's a good example. I have two really great boys. I have 5 children altogether. And they've been fantastic. You know Ivanka. Most of you know Ivanka, who's going to have a baby in about a week. We've been waiting. We thought Iowa. We thought New Hampshire. Right? We thought South Carolina. We thought Vegas would be an interesting place to have a baby. A much different deal. But she probably, during the next week or two, she'll have a baby. And she's been spectacular. Then I have Tiffany and I have Barron. And they're all very good kids. So hopefully they'll stay that way. Where's wood? I think I should knock on wood. I'll have to find some later. Wait. Is anybody superstitious? Oh, that's real wood too. That's the real deal. So anyway, no, they're good kids and it's really great. What we have to do, and I think the reason we're resonating is we have to straighten out our trade deals. They're horrible. With China, we lose in trade $500 billion a year. What kind of a deal is that? With Japan, we lose hundreds of billions of dollars. It's much smaller than China, but hundreds. We owe Japan $1.6 trillion. We owe China $1.7 trillion. It's sort of an amazing thing, right? They take our money, and then we owe them money. They take our jobs, we owe them money. They take our factories. You have no idea how many are closing up and have closed up. And I have great relationships with China. I have great relationships with Japan. I have great relationships with Mexico. But Mexico is killing us at the border, and they're killing us in trade. You read the other day where carriers moving into Mexico. Did anybody read that story? I thought it was very sad. Carrier, they make air conditioners, and they're moving in. And they released 1,400 people, and I guess somebody had a cell phone going, which I'm sure Carrier was not thrilled with because it went all over the world. And the executive was standing up saying, we're closing up and we're going to move to, all those jobs are gone, and we're going to move to Mexico. And I said to myself, how does that help us? How does it help us? So they're going to make air conditioners, they're going to sell them across the border, probably have illegals walk them in because it's cheaper that way. Nobody checks them. Well, nobody checks them. So, just every illegal gets an air conditioner, walks across. Well, Ford does the same thing, they're probably Ford's building a $2.5 billion plant, and they'll have illegals drive the cars across the border. So, it's very sad. Honestly, it's very sad. It's so bad that sometimes you have to laugh. You can't even believe it. So Ford is building a massive plant. Nabisco is moving from Chicago into Mexico. I mean, Mexico is literally the new China. They're taking our business. It's going to become the car capital of the world. They took a plant out of Tennessee. It was scheduled to be built in Tennessee, and boom, Tennessee is such a great place. They took it. Last moment, it decided it's going to Mexico. So we have to do something, and we have to have borders. We have to have strong borders. If we don't have borders, we don't have a country. And people can come into our country, but they have to come in legally. They can't do what they're doing. We have right now 179,000 illegal immigrants who are criminals, who have criminal convictions. That means all 179, think of that. So that's like filling up Yankee Stadium 4 times. We have all over the country. These are criminals. This is not just, these are people that were convicted of a crime. So we're going to be very strong on the borders. We're going to be very, very strong on trade. We're going to be very strong on protecting our Second Amendment. We're going to get rid of Common Core, which is basically education through Washington, which is a disaster, by the way, and you understand that. And we're going to get rid of Obamacare. Obamacare is turned out to be a total disaster. And it's really hurting our country. It's really hurting our country because you have so many part-time jobs right now because people don't want to register under Obamacare, and you have part-time. Everyone has part-time jobs. I mean, you look at these people; they never had a part-time job in their life, and now all of a sudden, companies are putting them on part-time, and now they have to go get a second job. So it's a very unfair thing, and we're going to get rid of it. We're going to come up with a plan. There's so many different plans, whether it's the healthcare savings accounts or we have to get rid of the lines between the states. That's only there for one reason, because all of these politicians that I'm running against and more are taken care of by the insurance companies, and they're taken care of by the oil and gas companies, and they're taken care of by everybody. I'm the only one that's not. You know why I'm not? Because I'm self-funding. I don't know if that's smart or not so smart, but as a big contributor, I've been over the years a very big contributor. I understand. I mean, I understand what it takes. We have a situation right now with drugs. We don't bid out drugs. Can you believe it? The United States is the largest drug buyer in the world. Drugs to make you better, pharmaceuticals. And we don't bid it out. And a friend of mine who's a doctor, great guy, came up to me and said, Donald, why don't we? I don't understand it. Well, once I found out what he was talking about, because it's not my world, I knew exactly why. Because the pharmaceutical industry takes care of all the senators and all the congressmen. They have a very strong lobby. And they don't want to bid out drugs. If you bid them out, we'll save $300 billion. $300 billion. And we don't even do it. We're going to do it. Because what happens, if I'm there, they'll be calling, Donald, you can't do that. You can't do it. Trust me, I can do it. They can't do it. Because they've been given millions of dollars. You don't know how corrupt it is. And I guess it's called legal corruption. But you don't know how corrupt it is. And whether it's timber industries, anything, I'll do the right thing. By the way, I'm going to be great for industries too, but I'll do the right thing. But we have to straighten our country out. One of the other things bigger than that is military. I mean, for years we've been seeing the military, and I've been reading about it for years, where they order a plane that they don't want, or they order missiles that they don't want, they want a different one. Because the company making that missile has more political influence, so they're ordering things that even the generals don't want, and they're ordering too much equipment, and they're ordering the wrong equipment. Those days are over. And we're going to make our military bigger, better, stronger than ever before. We need it more than it's the cheapest thing we can do, by the way. And nobody's going to mess with us. I don't want to use it. Nobody's going to mess with us. Remember, I'm the one. I didn't want to go into Iraq. It was one of the worst decisions ever made. We lost $2 trillion, thousands and thousands of lives. Thousands of lives. We have wounded warriors who I love all over the place. And what happens? Iran is now taking over Iraq. When you think of how Iran is doing lately, right? Between the Iran deal, we give them $150 billion. We got nothing for it. We should have gotten our prisoners back long before we started negotiating. And all you do is say, listen, we're not negotiating until we get our prisoners back. We can't. And they'll say no, and you leave the room. They didn't leave the room. They never left. They just stood there. Kerry, this is the worst negotiator I think I've ever seen. He never left the room. But all you have to do is say, we need our prisoners back. This is like 4 years ago when they started this longest negotiation I've ever seen, too. But you say, we have to have our prisoners back. They're going to say no. The Persians, I mean, Pat can tell you that. The Persians are great negotiators. And they're smart. And it's tough. But you go and you say, we need our prisoners back. You don't want them. You don't need them. Your people don't even know they're there. We need them. And we got to have them. And we'll make a better deal because it's easier. So then they'll say no. And we'll leave the room. We'll say bye-bye. And then we double up the sanctions, and within 24 hours they're going to call and say, you get your prisoners back, right? Then you go in for seconds because you have to do this. So you go in and you say, listen, and I tell the story, which is sort of cute. My father was a very good negotiator, and he thought I was too rough. He said, too tough. You're too tough. You got to just take the lumps out. He used to use the expression. He'd always go like this when he'd say, son, take the lumps out. So if I didn't have my father, I would have said this. We're not giving you the $150 billion. So they'd be over there and they'd be angry and, you probably never bring it back. But I'd say it very tough. We're not giving it to you. But now I learned so much from my father. So I take the lumps out. So now I say, listen, we have a problem. Now, in the meantime, our prisoners back, they landed. I'd say, did they land yet? No, I won't say it yet. Let's wait till the next day. Did they land? Yes, they just landed on American soil. So now I say, fellas, we have a problem. Big problem. We have a country not doing well. We owe $19 trillion. Essentially, we're bust. We got no money. We got no money. We just had a budget approved for $2 trillion with $21 trillion. We have no money. Fellas, we can't give you the $150 billion. They're going to go crazy. They're going to go crazy. One day. One day. And then I'll say, I'm sorry, I want to give it to you so badly, you have no idea. I'm dying to give it to you, but I can't, we don't have any money. So that's better than saying, we're not giving it to you, right? Do we all agree? It's the same effect, except this way they recover faster. They probably both work. I know the second one works. The first one, you know, you could end up in a position where it's going to be a long time before you start. No way I would have given them $150 billion. No way. In a million years. And one of the saddest things is the money's gone. And by the way, 2 days before the money left, see, the Art of the Deal. Hold that book up. See, The Art of the Deal. He reads it. Everybody. Who didn't read The Art of the Deal? Everybody reads The Art of the Deal. But I always say the Bible is much better. There's not a contest, right? Because that's one of the great books, but the Bible is much better. So there are so many, not even close. Do we agree? I will tell you, right? We agree. But The Art of the Deal has been a great book. Obviously, Kerry did not read The Art of the Deal. Probably didn't read the Bible either, but these are... But it's a very sad thing. That whole episode with Iran is a very sad thing. And then 2 days before the money is sent, they capture 10 beautiful young sailors. They put guns to their heads. They roughed them up in terms of, at least mentally, they were devastated. And they humiliated our country. They humiliated the 10 people, 1 woman and 9 men. And that's what we're dealing with. Not going to happen anymore, folks. It's not going to happen anymore. We're going to be the smart country instead of the dummies that everyone laughs at. They laugh at us because we have people that don't know what they're doing, like Sergeant Bergdahl. We get Bergdahl, a traitor. They get 5 killers that they've coveted, they've wanted for 9 years. And those 5 killers are back on the battlefield, or soon will be. But these are the ones they wanted, these 5. So we knew he was a traitor before we made the deal, because they had a general and a colonel interviewing all of the people that he worked with in the military. They knew he left. 6 people died looking for him. 5 definitely, probably 6. Died. They went out looking for him. They tried to get him back. He left. And that's the way we negotiate. We get Bergdahl. They get 5 great killers for them, the people that they want. Not going to happen anymore. Not going to happen. So I tell these stories, and I go around and I meet with crowds, and we have tremendous crowds. We have by far the biggest crowds, far, far, far bigger than Bernie. And Bernie's heading down now, I think. Bernie looks like he's over, and it looks like Hillary's going to be protected from the email scandal by the Democrats. I mean, can you believe it? So many people, for doing much less than she did, are in prison and just, devastated. No, think of it. Think of it. For doing less than she did. And she looks like she's just going to be, she's going around. Boy, did you ever see anybody so nice to the president, though? Oh, the president is wonderful, she says. Oh, the president, he's great. What he wants to do this. Oh, that's wonderful. Whatever he wants. You know why she's doing that, right? Do you know why? I know why. Boy, oh boy, she's become like a marshmallow. She's become, everything he does. Oh, it's wonderful. Whatever he wants to do, it's wonderful. The president... Man, I tell you, couldn't be. Her life cannot be so easy. But she is, what she's done is so wrong, and it's so unfair. And it looks like she'll be the nominee, and it looks like nothing will happen. But it'll be something that'll be discussed. I promise you, it will be discussed often, often, often. So, with that, I think we're really doing well. It looks like we're on a great trend, and we have tremendous support, and we have amazing people in this country. And one of the most amazing people in the whole country is our great friend, Pat. Will you come out here, Pat? Look at him. One of the great people.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Pat.
Wonderful. Thank you. Man, it's good to have you here with us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
You inspire us all.
It's great to be here. Good morning to be here. Supposing I lost, I probably would have called Pat. I don't know if I want to be there today, right? Yeah. No, we had a great evening.
A great evening. Let me ask you. You're working on a project in Washington on Pennsylvania Avenue, right. The old post office building. Everybody wanted it, but you got it. The Art of the Deal. What did you do?
Well, it's a great building. It's the old post office, built in the 1880s. It's an amazing building with walls that are 5 and 6 feet thick of solid granite. You know, they don't build them that way anymore.
Yeah.
Today they use like plastic, right? And this is an amazing building, one of the most beautiful buildings in Washington. And for years it was the post office. And I always say to people, if you can get the post office in a city, you always get the best location because they're always there first,
That's
right? And this is the one for Washington. So they put it out to bid. And it was one of the most hotly contested projects ever in the history of the GSA, government services, where they sort of the landlord for United States real estate, big landlord. And they chose us. And it's a great honor because we were chosen in the Obama administration, which is sort of amazing because a lot of people thought we wouldn't be able to get it. But we have a great financial statement. They want to make sure it gets done. And we have a great track record for this stuff. And we're building now a hotel, 300 rooms, that is going to be, I think, one of the great hotels of the world. We're a year and a half ahead of schedule, even more than that, but we're a year and a half ahead of schedule, which is a little unusual when you're talking about governments because they're never even close. But we're 1.5 years and we're under budget, and it'll open in September of this year. And they're supposed to open up in September in 2 years from now. And I thought I could do something. You know, we really have a great team. Eric and Donna working on it, and Ivanka is really in charge of that one. And she's done an amazing job. And it's going to be one of the most beautiful hotels. I think it'll be one of the great hotels of the world.
Now, let's assume that you run the table and that you, about a year from now, that you've got your hand on the Bible and you're swearing an oath before the Chief Justice of the United States. And then you're president. At that point, you're it. Okay. There's a little office underneath the Capitol where you could go to, and by the stroke of the pen, you could cancel a great many of the executive orders of your predecessor. You don't need Congress. Executive order, you can do it. What would you do?
Well, I would do that. We expect to cancel many of the executive orders that were passed because, you know, Obama has not been able to run things the way you're supposed to run them. Yeah. You're supposed to get the congressmen in, the senators in. You're supposed to make deals like Ronald Reagan, Tip O'Neill. They were opposites, but they made deals and they liked each other. I will say this, Pat. I've been involved in politics for a long time, all my life. I've gotten tremendous zoning changes. I deal in politics in other countries because we're building all over the world, and we have jobs going up all over the world, a lot of jobs. But I have never seen division like you have now. You know, it used to be you'd go to a restaurant in Washington, you'd see a Republican having dinner with a Democrat and they're best friends.
That's right.
You don't see that anymore. There's hatred. The country is so divided. Whether it's African American, white, congressman, Democrat, Republican. I mean, it's just like we have a whole divided country. I've never seen anything like it. But we used to see, and I used to be part of, Democrats and Republicans having dinners together with their families and their wives. And it was a nice thing. Sure. And then, you know, there'd be combat the next day, but they'd get along and they'd get things done. So today we have a president that can't get anything done, and he signs executive orders. So one of the first ones I'd knock out is his executive order on the Second Amendment, where he's chipping away at it, which is so important, the Second Amendment. And the other one would be the one on the border, where basically he wants people to pour into the country unchecked. And the courts have been, you know, following that one. And amazingly, we had a couple of pretty good decisions so far. But it's still out there. So I'd save the legal fees, frankly. I'd get rid of it. I'd knock it out very fast. But because we do have to, and I know you believe in this, you have to have strong borders. If we don't have strong borders, you saw the Pope came out against me a little bit. But that was before he was very nice, because the next day he issued a statement.
Well, he realized he had a pretty big wall around the Vatican. And so he said...
Pretty big. But he was fine. I mean, he was told probably that, you have this man named Trump and he wants to create very strong borders and he wants to build a wall. We got to build a wall. We're going to build a wall. Drugs are pouring across the border. People are coming in it's like we don't even have a country. You don't have a border, you don't have a country. So, but he was good. He was a little bit strong at first. Sort of interesting, because it was the day before the election, right? And I said to myself, oh, no. And my people came up to me. They said, Mr. Trump, the Pope just made a big statement about you. I said, good or bad? Now, you have to say, we have the election like the next morning. So it's good or bad? They said, not good. I said, oh, this is a disaster. And it turned out to be that he talked about the border. And he did mention the wall. And then I said, the first thing I thought of, I said, but I've seen the Vatican. That's the most incredible wall. That wall goes up to that ceiling, right? I said, what about this? So I think he actually took a little heat. He actually was very, very nice the next day. You know, nobody explained to him about the crime. Nobody explained to him about the drugs pouring across and the economy. And he was actually very nice. But it was a very interesting period. You don't want to hear the day before your election that the Pope said something about you. That's not.
We've got a massive deficit, and we're running a deficit every year, and the wasteful spending is out of control. There was a commission, Senator Simpson and Erskine Bowles got together and gave a very reasoned proposal. Have you adopted anything like that? We've got to have some way of cutting the spending down. What are you going to do?
Other than, and I think I could add to it a lot, though, because I'm going to bring jobs back to the country. Yeah. Our country has been stripped. We've rebuilt China. And again, I like China. I think China is wonderful. I'm not angry at China. I'm angry at our representatives, our people, our president for doing such bad deals. And not just Obama. This goes back. You know, this isn't just now. But Obama's been horrible, and others have been also. And so I'm not upset with China. I have them as tenants in my bank. I have the biggest bank in the world as a tenant in one of my buildings in Manhattan. I sell millions and millions of dollars worth of condominiums to the Chinese. So I can't be angry at them. Same thing with Mexico. I mean, I have great relationships with Mexico. Problem is, in both cases, but really in all cases, all countries, every country is killing us because we have people that are political hacks that are negotiating trade deals. They know nothing about it. And they have the smartest, sharpest people that they pick out when they're practically 3 years old. You understand that? Yeah. They go up this pyramid chain and they pick them out very early. And our people cannot deal with it because we're not using our... And we have the greatest business people in the world. We don't use them. So Carl Icahn, as an example, endorsed me. Many of the business people endorsed me, the great ones. And we're going to use our greatest business people to negotiate trade deals. And we're going to not be losing this kind of money. We have horrible, horrible deals with Japan and everyone else.
You know, there was a law passed, Sarbanes-Oxley, and the numbers of IPOs that have been brought forth since then have been drastically curtailed. Now we've got the inversions where people go from Ireland or Canada or some low tax and put their headquarters there.
That's right.
And yet our tax burden on corporations is probably the highest in the world. What are you going to do with it?
So we have the highest taxes in the world, the United States. Think of it, with deficits like this, and yet we have high taxes. I'm cutting taxes very substantially for businesses. We're going to bring businesses back. We're going to bring our jobs back. We're going to make sure that, you know, look, China is one of the great currency manipulators in history, ever. There's nobody ever like this. Japan is really good, but China is even better. And they have done a number on us with manipulation, with devaluations. In fact, our dollar goes up, and everyone says, oh, isn't that wonderful? In the meantime, look at Caterpillar. They can't sell a tractor. It's a very bad situation going on. So, and they have no fear of us. They have no respect for us anymore. In the South China Sea, just before I left, I was watching where they're building this massive, massive military complex in the middle of the South China Sea. They're not supposed to be doing it. But they're doing it because they don't respect our president. They don't, I mean, he gives them state dinners when they come over, but they have no respect. And we have a lot of power over China. We just don't know it. We have people that don't know it. The power is straight. We've rebuilt them. They are taking so much money out of our country. What they've done, and I say it, it's the greatest robbery in the history of the world, what they've done. We've rebuilt China. You just take a look. We have rebuilt. They've taken so much money out. And we have to stop it. And we have to use our power, because we have a lot of power because of trade. We have to stop it. And we can get them to do things like they have to solve the North Korea problem. We have a North Korea problem that you probably know better than I do, because I know that's also a part of the world that you look at.
That's right.
But we have a big problem. You know they don't exist without China. But China, Pat, says, well, we don't have that kind of control. They're just toying with us. They have total control over him. The other one that does is Iran. Yeah. So why didn't we, when we made our deal a month ago, why didn't we insist that they take care of this guy instead of us always going over with the ships and the weapons and the planes and, you know, dropping bombs if we have to? And then you have South Korea, who I love. I have buildings in South Korea. But they make a fortune. I buy television sets. I buy tremendous amounts of things from there, because we don't make television sets anymore, folks. I would like to make them. We don't make them. We used to make them. You remember Sylvania, RCA? But those days are gone, right? We're not even supposed to be talking about that, because it shows that we're not as young as we used to be. But But we don't make it anymore. And here you have an economic behemoth in South Korea, and they pay us peanuts. But every time we have 28,000 soldiers between North and South Korea, that's a dangerous job, by the way. But we have 28,000 soldiers. We get paid peanuts. They make a lot of money, and they're good people. Everything's good, but they have to take care of us. We're not in a position to be the policeman of the world. We have to be taken care of. And so there are a lot of things we can do when we're president.
What are we going to do to North? How would you specifically go after the North? I mean, they claim they've got a thermonuclear weapon. You think that's true?
Well, I would start with China.
All right.
Because China has absolute power. The stuff comes through China. I would have done Iran, but I don't think you're going to get anywhere with Iran now because they're a hostile nation. They took our money. They spent the money. They bought 118 Airbus planes instead of Boeings. Okay, in other words, the money goes to Europe. They bought a lot of things in Italy. They bought a lot of things all over Europe. And they bought missiles, which I didn't know they had the right to buy. They bought a lot of missiles from Russia. They gave us nothing. We gave them 150 billion. Out of the 150 billion, they've spent a lot of it. Nothing goes to the United States. I would have been very strong in the negotiation that Iran has to push them. And I would now be very strong on China. Because, again, we have a lot of power over China. Because China takes out so much money. So we're going to lose. Again, I said before, $500 billion trade deficit with China. You can't do that, Pat. How long are you going to have a country if you do that? So I hate to tell you, folks, you need somebody like me. I'm good at this stuff. do you know, Pat, that the politicians don't even know about that? They don't even know what it means. They really don't. They talk about free trade. I'm a free trader. But you got to have smart trade, too. You don't have to intelligent trade.
Yeah.
And I say there'll be a tax. Like Carrier, I was just saying, Carrier's moving over to Mexico. They're going to make air conditioners. They're going to sell them to us, no tax, no nothing. So we lose 1,400 jobs. They move to Mexico. They build a plant. They employ Mexican people, which is fine. They make air conditioners. They sell them. I would tell them, here's the story, folks. And this is the only thing you can do to stop it. I mean, in all fairness. Here's the story. You're going to make air conditioners. We wish you a lot of luck. I hope you build a nice plant. Enjoy yourselves. But every time you put an air conditioner into this country, you send an air conditioner, you're going to have a 35% tax. They're not going to move. They're not moving because you have to do it. That's called... Now, Pat, there are people that would say, oh, you're not a conservative. Well, I'm the most conservative guy in many ways, but you have to be smart. Otherwise, everyone's going to move. We're not going to have anybody left. You know the kind of thousands and thousands of factories have closed in our country. And Pat said it before, corporate inversion. You have people that can't get money back in that they have.
Yeah.
And they're actually moving companies, not only because the taxes are too high, but they're moving companies out of the United States, like Pfizer.
Not true.
Pfizer's a great company. They're moving out thousands of jobs. They're moving to get money because there's $2.5 trillion outside of the United States. They can't get it in, and yet the Democrats and the Republicans agree, bring it in. So all you have to do if you're Obama is sit down with both. Within 10 minutes, you'd make a deal. There's a case where everyone agrees and they can't make a deal.
Why hasn't he done it?
I could tell you the story, but I don't know. I mean, I like that example because, so there's $2.5 trillion. I think it could be $5 trillion. Could be more than that. But, the government says it's 2.5, but they don't know. They have no idea. If they say 2.5, it's probably much more. But here's a case where Democrats and Republicans are in total agreement. It's one thing they disagree on health care, they disagree on all these other things, and we get it, all right? It's tough. But here's something they all agree on. We want the money back in our country. What's not to agree on, right? So you can work on a little tax, a little this, a little that, but it should be 10 minutes to solve that problem. So they agree here, the money's going to come back in. No deal. They've agreed now for 3 years. And what that is leadership. If I were president, I would get them all in an office, big office, and I would say, fellas, we've got to make this deal. Folks, because we have a lot of women now, and that's good. We have to make this deal. We have to make this deal, and let's get it done. I think you'd have it done in a half hour. But you need leadership.
Yeah.
You can't fly to Hawaii to play golf on a Boeing 747. Talking about the carbon footprint. Pat, he talks about the carbon footprint, right? And then he gets on a 747 to play golf, and he spews the stuff and comes back a long time later. It wasn't like he came back the next day. He comes back, he plays a lot of golf. Okay. So anyway, but you got to get people into an office, and you got to make deals.
One last question. I know David's got some questions from the audience, but Scalia just died. He was a dear friend here at Regent, a dear friend of all of us, and a great justice. The court was in a conservative mode, 5-4, on a lot of votes anyhow. And now we've got the next president may have Ginsburg. There may be 3 judges.
Right.
What criteria would you use to?
Well, we have some good ones. We have Judge Alito, who's terrific. Sam, terrific. We have Judge Thomas, who I think is a terrific judge. Who's a real strong, very, very good guy. And we have some that didn't work out as well. I mean, if you look at Justice Roberts, he could have killed Obamacare twice. Mm-hmm. No matter what he does, it's like, he was appointed by Bush. By the way, I will tell you that Senator Cruz is the one that pushed him. He was the one that most wanted him. In fact, he wrote editorials, but you got to have Roberts, you got to have Roberts. And Justice Roberts was a terrible, terrible situation because he approved Obamacare when everybody said it was going to be terminated. He was the vote that said we're going to keep it. Then he had a second time at it, which would have also killed it, and he passed it then too. And some of the other judges are the conservative. I mean, the rumors are that some of them wouldn't even speak to him. Mm-hmm. But what he did was terrible. Now, he was a Bush appointee, and he was really proposed. The one that pushed him harder than anybody was Cruz, Senator Cruz. And so Senator Cruz gave us Obamacare in a true sense, because any good it's true. It's true. No. In fact, you have right now, they have editorials where he wrote actually papers on why he should be the one chosen, signed by Ted Cruz. So, I mean, he has been, no matter what he does, he's been a disastrous judge because Obamacare is killing everybody. It's killing everybody.
So, one more question. In your selection as president, what criteria would you use to pick somebody?
Pro-life.
Pro-life.
We want. Starts with that. Very conservative, very, very smart. I mean, like Judge Scalia would be a perfect. He was a perfect representative. I've always said that Justice Thomas doesn't get enough credit.
He's a wonderful man.
He is. He's a wonderful man. He's a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
And I've always said, and as I said, Judge Alito is a terrific guy. So, in that realm is what we're talking about for me.
Well, we've got some questions. All right, they've come in from all around, and I'll turn this over to our friend David.
Thank you, sir. Hello, Mr. Trump.
Thank you, David.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Here's a question from the simulcast room because this event is huge, and we've got an overflow room, by the way.
That.
I thought you'd like to know that.
I see a lot of people up there. That's beautiful.
That's right. They're everywhere. All right, here's the question. It's about Israel. It's from Kerry from the simulcast room. Support of Israel, essential for continuing stability in the Middle East, obviously, and for maintaining a firm stance against terrorism. Will you emphatically stand with Israel?
Yes.
Is the question.
Very simple answer. Yes. They've been our most reliable ally, especially in the Middle East. And you look at what's happened with Israel. They were so against this horrible Iran deal. They were so against it. And I tell you what, Obama was the worst thing that's ever happened to Israel. You can look at it as he's not a good president and he's not doing a good job. And you look at Bibi Netanyahu, you look at what he has gone through. I mean, you could just see the level of exasperation on that man's face, how they just, the most basic things, they weren't winning anything. Why did we make a deal like this with these people? And they look at us like they have no respect for us whatsoever. They can't believe themselves that they were able to get this deal. I don't get it. I mean, I don't get it. There are a lot of theories out there, but I don't get it. This will be studied and studied for a long time. And this will prove to be a very bad deal. This will lead to nuclear proliferation 100%. Sure. And all the money we gave, everything we gave, even the keeping of the hostages, and, ultimately they released the hostages for $150 billion they released. So it really looks like ransom. The other way, it wouldn't have been ransom. The way I said it, and it would have been back 4 years earlier. No, I'm with Israel 100%.
All right. Next question. This also from the simulcast room. James wants to know about the Constitution. As president, what will you do to restore adherence to the Constitution by all levels of government?
Well, I'm a very strong constitutionalist. I mean, I feel so strongly about it. And we've gotten away. I mean, frankly, I think you could say it, not giving it a lot of thought, but all these executive orders, that's not a constitutional thing, and nobody ever saw this. I mean, we have a president who just goes and does, he'll spend 3 minutes trying to talk somebody into it. You'll see he's got a little burden, and he just goes and signs an executive order, and he says, hey, 5 years later, the courts will decide. So it's not the way it's supposed to be. The good thing about executive orders is the new president can come in and immediately void them. That's the one good thing. The one good thing.
Very nice. All right. This is an interesting one, right from here in the studio audience. From Bernard. During this campaign, there had been a lot of tough language among the candidates. Can you forgive and forget, to put it aside, to join together, and also pick a VP choice made from one of these folks that might have been saying a few things?
I can forgive. I mean, I'm pretty good at that. I do have, every once in a while, there'll be somebody that went too far and I won't like it. I mean, you've been hearing what I've been saying over the last few weeks, and things were said that were lies, frankly. They were real lies, and I won't mention, because I can't mention Pat's presence. I've got to be a good person, today, at least for the next hour. I'm sorry. But there have been many untruths told, and just knowing. I mean, I think what happened to Ben Carson was terrible when they said he left the race. Here, come on over, vote for me. That affected me too, because I think I would have won Iowa. You want to know the truth? Yeah. But we're doing okay. We've got a second and 3 firsts, so I'm not complaining. Am I? Yeah. But I like 4 firsts better. I won 4 firsts. But what happened to Ben Carson? What happened there was horrible. The notice violation, they called it a voter violation. That's like a fraudulent document that was sent. Sure. So there have been some bad things happening out there. I tell people real estate is pretty tough, and real estate in Manhattan, you meet some tough people. These politicians are not such good people.
All right. Lexi from the audience right here. Mr. Trump, there are some who say that in the past you have supported Democrat and liberal views. How can voters be sure that you will truly hold and would actually continue to uphold Republican ideas and values?
Well, it's interesting. As one of the magazines said, Donald Trump is a world-class businessman, and it was sort of interesting. I'm all over the world, and I deal with all politicians. And honestly, I never thought I'd be doing this. I just got exasperated. I would have done it 4 years ago. I looked at it very seriously with Romney. I was actually leading in the polls. And I decided, I had a lot of jobs going. My children are younger, and now they can do a great job, and I have excellent executives. But this is not something I really was going to do or really wanted to do. I loved what I was doing. Mm-hmm. The fact is that as a businessman, you get along with all politicians, or you have a problem. So I got along with Democrats, I got along with liberals and conservatives and Republicans. I got along with everybody, because that was my thing. It was very important. I got along with Bob. Where's Bob? I saw Bob in the audience. Where is he? Where is he? What? By the way, and a fantastic person. Okay, you know that. Stand up, Bob. He's a He was a fantastic person. But I got along with everybody. And that was important. And I tell people, and people would forgive me for that. They'd say, well, it's true. But as a businessman, you want to get along with Democrats, Republicans, everyone. And I think for the most part, that's been used on me, and I understand it. But once I explain it, most people understand.
All right. Ken, from right here in the audience, wants to know, assuming you will be the nominee of the party, what are the most important qualities you are going to look for in a vice presidential candidate? And feel free to name some names. That was my part.
Actually, there are some names that I've gotten to respect that are, that have been. We started off with 17. We're now down to 5. Mm-hmm. And, some of the people that I've dealt with, I do have a lot of respect for, and I like. Look, the main quality that you want is somebody that can be a great president. If something happens to you, that's got to be, don't you think? That's got to be number one. Right. Exactly right. And then I would want somebody that could help me with government. So most likely that would be a political person, because, I'm business and I'm very good at what I do and all of that. And I'm also very, very political. You've seen me, when you can get zoning on the west side of Manhattan to build almost 6,000 units of housing, and you have to go through New York City politics, believe me, that's as tough. I don't say Israel-Palestine, but it's about as tough a deal. It's about as tough a deal. I view that as the single toughest deal. Anybody can make that deal, and we're going to give it a shot, okay? We're going to give it a shot. But a lot of good people have gone down trying to give that one a shot. But the most important thing is you have to have somebody that can be a great president. But after that, you want somebody that can help you with legislation, getting it through, et cetera, et cetera. So I would say and it's too early, I'm not thinking about it a lot, I'm thinking about getting the ball over the line and, get this thing done. And it's a very interesting thing because some people know how to do that, some people don't. But I do want somebody that's political because I want to get lots of great legislation that we all want passed. It's just sitting there for years and years and years. We have things sitting there that would be so good, including proper health care and other things. So we're gonna probably choose somebody that's somewhat political.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'll please, David. I'm gonna stop now. I thought he's had a busy day, and you win Nevada and come to Virginia. I mean, it's a big deal. Hillary, if you were president, would you instruct the Attorney General to indict her for what she's done in relation to the emails?
Well, it's an amazing question because, there's a 6-year statute of limitations. Might be 5, but probably 6. And the answer is I would instruct them to take a look at it, because it's not really our call to say indict.
Yeah.
But certainly you would have to take a look at it because you look at General Petraeus, he suffered greatly. They gave him 2 years suspended and lots of things.
Right.
They wanted to take his rank away from him. I fought that very hard. I said, this man suffered enough. Why don't you focus on beating ISIS instead of leave General Petraeus alone? Yeah. Just leave him alone. And I think it helped him, but they wanted to cut his rank way down and a lot of other things they wanted to do to him. But, he suffered greatly over this. And what he did is nothing compared to what she did. So I would instruct my Attorney General, please look at it, and if there's something there seems to be a lot there because, every day we see people and we read about people that are experts in the field. And how often do you see somebody saying she did nothing wrong? Yeah. They're all saying she did something very wrong. That's right. But they're protecting her because she's the #1 runner and she's saying how wonderful Obama is. Did you ever see anything like it? Every single thing that he wants to do, she's saying great. So she's doing it for that reason. Believe me, folks.
Well, Donald, I want to thank you. I think the audience really appreciates and loves you. They appreciate you being here. I would ask you after the election, will you please come back as President Trump and give a presidential message here at Regent?
We'll do it again. Great job you've done. Thanks. Great place. Thank you very much.
Good work.
Thank you. So nice.
Thank you. That was nice.
So nice.
Good work.